Thanks for joining us on the CBN News Channel. I'm Charlene Israel. Early in his second term, President Obama promised unprecedented federal policies to address climate change. Now he's unveiled them. White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains why some fear the new policies are nails in the coffin for some jobs.
There is no question. Extreme weather is plaguing the U.S. While there's disagreement among scientists about what's causing it, President Obama says he has no patience for those who deny human activity is affecting the climate and says the U.S. has a moral obligation to address it.
As a president, as a father, and as an American, I'm here to say we need to act.
He's directing his administration to launch the first ever federal regulations on heat-trapping gases.
To put an end to the limitless dumping of carbon pollution from our power plants and complete new pollution standards for both new and existing power plants.
Mr. Obama says new regulations will cause companies to innovate, creating new industries and jobs. But some Republicans accuse the Obama administration of systematically trying to eliminate some fossil fuels, especially coal. In response to the president's plans, Kentucky Congressman Ed Whitfield says, quote, he is personally responsible for the loss of thousands of jobs. He obviously does not have much interest in states like Kentucky, Tennessee, and Wyoming, where the coal industry is so vitally important, and we are losing jobs dramatically. Other parts of the president's plan include streamlining approval for clean energy projects and fortifying the nation's infrastructure to better weather powerful storms. And while the president acknowledges oil must be part of the nation's energy portfolio, he offered a grim outlook for the future of the Keystone Pipeline, the project that would carry crude from Canada to refineries along the Gulf. It's currently under review by the State Department.
The net effects of the pipeline's impact on our climate will be absolutely critical to determining whether this project is allowed to go forward.
New regulations announced by the president will be implemented through his agencies by presidential memorandum, leaving Congress out of the loop. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Jennifer. At least one evangelical group says cutting carbon dioxide emissions is not a good idea. The Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation says it would hurt the poor. The president's plan calls for the U.S. to stop financing new coal-fired power plants abroad. The alliance says research shows that increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere actually boosts crop production and doesn't significantly raise global temperatures. The alliance also says it would be unconscionable to keep millions in poverty by denying them electricity from coal-fired power plants. A sweeping new abortion bill is dead in the Texas Senate after failing to pass before its midnight deadline. The vote on Tuesday drew hundreds to the state's capital. Thousands more watched a live stream. The fight over abortion in Texas is symbolic of the abortion fight nationwide. The cries from pro-choice supporters in the Texas Senate chamber drowned out Republicans attempting to vote on Texas's sweeping anti-abortion bill. This video on the Austin American-Statesman website captured the moment. Texas Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst called the crowd of nearly 400 an unruly mob and blamed them for using Occupy Wall Street tactics to disrupt the Senate from protecting unborn babies. He said the bill passed 19-10, but because of all the noise, he couldn't hear the proceedings. Senate Bill 5 restricts abortions after 20 weeks. It also puts significant restrictions on abortion, doctors, and clinics. Opponents say it could shut 37 of the 42 clinics in the state.
It is about women's health. Those parts of the bill truly were about women's health. The 20-week ban is truly about the pain of a 5-month-old baby going through an abortion.
Before the protesters erupted in the Senate gallery, Democratic Senator Wendy Davis filibustered against the bill for 11 hours.
I want to continue by reading the portion of the bill.
Abortion opponents cheered her on, arguing the laws would make it nearly impossible for a woman to get a legal abortion.
They're trying to make it very, very difficult for the women in Texas to have that choice.
Davis's filibuster was halted before the midnight deadline approached when Dewhurst ruled she had gone off topic. But then the protesters stepped in. and a time stamp on the vote showed it failed to meet its deadline. The proceedings drew thousands of online viewers as well, and even caught the attention of President Obama's official Twitter account, which tweeted out, "Something special is happening in Austin tonight." 24 states nationwide are pushing to regulate abortion clinics, causing abortion advocates to push back harder and sparking a countrywide debate. The case of Philadelphia abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell, who was sentenced to life in prison for murdering 3 babies born alive, has also focused more public attention on the issue of abortion. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst hinted that Governor Rick Perry may call another special session to get the bill passed. A new law in Florida allows children to stay in foster care until age 21. Governor Rick Scott signed the measure Monday. Currently, there are about 2,200 young people in the state's foster care system. They all age out at age 18. But 70% of foster teens have not graduated high school or received their GED by the time they leave foster care. The new bill allows them to stay in the system and receive assistance from the state until they are 21. Foster care advocates applaud the move.
It's hard when you're thrown out with just a bag of clothes to say, good luck, be successful. But this bill helps us say, hey, we have your back.
One of these individuals might be the next president, might be the next governor, might come up with a cure of cancer.
The law takes effect January 1st. The Supreme Court has agreed to reconsider the constitutionality of a Massachusetts law that bars abortion protests within 35 feet of an abortion clinic. Abortion opponents want the 2007 law thrown out. They say it violates their free speech rights by preventing them from talking to women entering and leaving the clinics. Oral arguments are scheduled for October. The Supreme Court handed property owners a victory Tuesday. It said governments cannot demand excessive and unreasonable amounts of money in exchange for a building permit. The Kuntz family bought 15 acres of Florida land back in 1972. The state later declared their property as wetlands. The Kuntzes offered to let 11 of the 15 acres stay undeveloped. But then local bureaucrats demanded the family pay up to $150,000 to upgrade their distant government-owned wetlands. When the family said no, state bureaucrats refused to give the family a building permit. Now the Supreme Court has ruled the bureaucrats were wrong.
Government can at times be a creeping blob, absorbing your rights, and hopefully this will at least put a halt to that.
The Kuntz's attorney said the court put government on notice that it can't turn the land use permitting process into an extortion machine. The Supreme Court has struck down a key part of the Voting Rights Act. Justices ruled 5-4 to eliminate a 40-year-old provision requiring special federal oversight of states with a history of discrimination. They argued the law is based on old data and cannot be enforced unless Congress establishes a new formula for determining which states require supervision. The court did keep part of the law used to open up polling places to minority voters in the South during the 1960s. The whereabouts of the American fugitive Edward Snowden are unclear today. Russia's president announced late Tuesday that Snowden was still in his country but never passed through Russian immigration. Amid the uncertainty, an international relations feud is heating up. George Thomas has more.
Snowden is apparently here inside Moscow's international airport with no Russian visa, but in an area reserved for passengers transiting through the country. Russia's President Vladimir Putin says Snowden is free to leave and should do so as soon as possible. The United States wants the Russians to hand over the former agent.
We would hope that Russia would not see its interests in siding with a person who is accused of breaking the law in another nation and who is a fugitive from justice according to international standards of law.
Snowden is reportedly trying to leave Russia en route to Ecuador, where he's requested political asylum.
I feel like every country's going, hot potato, he's not ours, he's not ours.
The U.S. government has revoked his passport and charged him with revealing details of a secret surveillance program. The former NSA agent is reportedly carrying laptops full of classified information that security experts fear could already be in the hands of China and Russia. The Snowden fiasco is putting strains on America's relations with China and Russia. Russia's president says Snowden has committed no crime and will not be extradited.
These are the fruits of a foreign policy that says that if you just talk and get along with people, everything will work out. And Vladimir Putin has been waiting a long time for an American president that he can push around. And I'm afraid he's getting away with that.
Meanwhile, China's top government newspaper praised the American leaker for, quote, tearing off Washington's sanctimonious mask after Snowden revealed the U.S. has been hacking into Chinese computer systems.
The outrage between the U.S. and China is mutual. Press Secretary Jay Carney saying China will face consequences for letting Snowden escape from their control in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda is said to be shifting its tactics after the NSA surveillance leaks. U.S. intelligence agencies are scrambling to salvage their surveillance of Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups. It's an electronic game of cat and mouse that can have deadly consequences if a plot is missed. 2 U.S. intelligence officials say members of virtually every terrorist group are changing how they communicate based on what they're reading in the media. Syrian Christians say the U.S. is helping turn their country into an Islamic state. That testimony came during a congressional hearing on religious minorities in Syria. Nina Shade, the director of the Hudson Institute's Center for Religious Freedom, testified that Islamic rebels are targeting Christians for, quote, ethno-religious cleansing. And Christian Solidarity International CEO John Eibner said displaced Christians are asking him, quote, why is the U.S. at war against us? Eibner says the U.S. should work with Russia to negotiate peace rather than help Sunni Muslim rebels turn the country into Islamic State. Coming up, an atheist group tried to remove a Jesus statue from public lands. We'll tell you what happened when religious liberty groups decided to fight back.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes now.
The movement to ban the so-called practice of reparative therapy is gaining momentum. The New Jersey Assembly passed a bill Tuesday forbidding therapists from making any attempt to help gay minors change their sexual orientation. The Senate will likely take it up tomorrow. Gay rights groups say the practice hurts young people, but critics say the bill infringes on parents' rights. Last year, California became the first state to ban the therapy, but a judge halted the implementation because of concerns about the law's constitutionality. A court victory for supporters of a Montana statue known as Big Mountain Jesus. The statue was erected on federal land in the 1950s to honor 2 World War veterans. The Freedom From Religion Foundation sued to get it taken down, claiming a religious icon has no place on public property. But religious liberties groups like the Beckett Fund and the American Center for Law and Justice fought back. Now, a federal judge has ruled that the statue is indeed a religious symbol, but added that it does not violate the Establishment of Religion Clause of the Constitution. Florida Atlantic University has reinstated the instructor who had students stomp on a piece of paper with the name Jesus written on it. He says the exercise was part of a lesson, and when word got out, it provoked a strong reaction, including a request from Florida Governor Rick Scott that university officials investigate. Instructor DeAndre Poole says the point of the lesson was to show the power of words, not denigrate Christianity. But some conservatives say that the exercise would never have been done using a name like Muhammad. Poole will now only teach online because of security concerns. The UK's Girl Guides are removing God from their pledge. The long-established British scouting organization took out a reference to loving God. Leaders instead put in a call to, quote, be true to myself and develop my beliefs. The organization says around 44,000 people weighed in on the decision to change the pledge. The chief guide says she hopes the change will encourage more girls to join. The reference to God has been a part of the pledge since the founding of the Girl Guides in 1910. Up next, we'll take you to a pro-choice state with a different angle. See how something called Real Alternatives is saving lives in Pennsylvania. Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Many states are controlled by politicians who support abortion, but Pennsylvania is using its taxpayer dollars to give women another choice, a choice for life. And as Paul Strand reports, it's working.
25 years ago, teenager Noreen Marisic found herself pregnant and at odds with angry parents.
They were trying to force me to have an abortion, and I wasn't going to do that.
Her boyfriend didn't want her to have the baby either. Noreen received no support until she came across the folks at Genesis Center in Pittsburgh. These women gave her a temporary place to live, education so she could support herself, and encouragement that she could be a good mother.
My mom said that I would end up to be nothing, that I'd end up on the welfare.
Even today, Noreen is overwhelmed with how the two older women seen here became the surrogate mothers she desperately needed.
With all the encouragement and love, those two ladies.
With financial support, centers like Genesis can help millions of women such as Noreen say no to abortion. It's not easy, though, when pro-choice politicians and abortion providers like Planned Parenthood join forces against that effort.
Some states are so aligned with the abortion industry, they're trying to shut down pro-life pregnancy centers. Not so here in Pennsylvania.
The state uses taxpayer dollars to help the pro-life alternatives. For 17 years now, the charity Real Alternatives has been directing $5 to $6 million a year to almost 100 pro-life centers across the state. These combined efforts have helped bring Pennsylvania's abortion rate down some 7%.
What I say is I'm pro-baby.
One of Real Alternatives' biggest backers, Governor Tom Corbett.
We've had 189,000 or over 189,000 women go through the program.
Corbett brings a personal connection to this fight because a pregnant woman chose adoption over abortion. His daughter and son-in-law adopted that woman's little boy.
When Liam comes to see us, he gets up on my knee, especially when it's nap time. I start rubbing his back. He goes to sleep against me. I thank God every day that young woman who decided to keep the baby and not have the baby aborted did so, because I've got this precious little fellow.
The Real Alternatives program also came to the rescue of Pennsylvania mom Jamie Fair. This unemployed mother became pregnant with her fourth child just as her husband left her. Her future looked bleak, and even doctors recommended she abort.
I did have a medical issue that they felt that it wouldn't be conducive to my life if I would go ahead with the pregnancy.
Short of money, Jamie came to Tri-City Life Center looking for a free crib, but ended up getting much more. Counselors there became the encouragers and family Jamie and her children needed.
I couldn't afford diapers, I couldn't afford food. They would get toys, they would get clothes, they would get things that they needed. But most importantly, they would get the support and the love that they needed.
Vera Morelli directs Tri-City Life.
When a mother decides to carry a child, we're there every day, not only through her pregnancy, but we're there for the first 5 years of that child.
They love these women as if they were their own daughter.
Real Alternatives President Kevin Bagata says most abortions happen because women feel forced into them due to a lack of support.
There were surveys done of women who had had an abortion, and they had said if one person had helped them during the crisis pregnancy, they wouldn't have had the abortion.
After they get help from a pro-life center, 87% of women say they won't abort even if they're pressured to by boyfriends, parents, or others. That's because now the woman feels she has someone on her side.
And therefore, she's free to make the decision she wants to make and can live with the rest of her life.
As Genesis Center's Amanda Newell showed CBN News all the center has to offer women in crisis pregnancies, she talked about the special horror that drove her in her high school years to want to help them.
I remember on TV there being somebody who put their baby in a garbage can in an alley. And I thought, if there is something I can do to stop that from happening, that's what I want to do with my life.
Now Newell spends her days showing pregnant women their unborn babies aren't just blobs of tissue.
Whenever they do abortions at this point, you're seeing arms and legs. You know, you're seeing human parts.
And she counsels on how this legal and supposedly safe procedure really isn't all that safe.
Abortion absolutely does have risks for the woman's health now and for her health in the long term and for her psychological well-being. but also, geez, man, it's really not good for the baby at all.
Year after year, Real Alternatives has fought for and won the highest seal the state's Association of Nonprofits can award. This is important to Real Alternatives so it can show the taxpayers not a dollar of their money is being mishandled.
The standards that we have here rise even above the standards required by the law, required by ethics.
This success has led 14 other states to ask for help in setting up similar programs. 24-year-old Jessica Sheldon is part of a generation where every third person has been killed by abortion.
It is kind of scary just to think of like all the people that could have been here but are not.
Jessica shares advice for pregnant young women wavering about giving their child life.
It's probably going to be really scary and you're probably going to be in shock for a while, but I mean, if you pull through with it, it's like the best thing ever.
Jessica doesn't say this because she was ever pregnant. It's because her mother is Noreen, who 25 years ago sought help from a pro-life center, then fought her family and boyfriend to keep her baby.
Some states say they're pro-choice because they back the abortion industry. It's different here in Pennsylvania. They say they're pro-choice because they're offering women real alternatives. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Finally today, millions of Twinkie fans can begin celebrating. That's right, the cream-filled snack cake is headed back to stores. It was just a few months ago that addicts everywhere mourned the loss of their favorite snack when maker Hostess went bankrupt.
Oh man, it was just like I had lost something. You know, I lost my girl, you know. I love Twinkies.
I was actually pregnant, so I was devastated.
Wow. Well, two investment firms recently bought the company. Today, they're firing up the production line and not just making Twinkies, but Hostess cupcakes and other snacks. The bullet-shaped pastries will be back in stores July 15th at the same price of $3.99 for a box of 10. But be warned, those boxes will still pack about 1,500 calories, but that's not stopping the yellow dye-loving diehards.
The kids will now get to have fried Twinkies and scoop the middle out the Hostess ding-dongs.
Don't walk, run!
And the new company has a new distribution plan, which means Twinkies will be in about 3 times the number of stores as before, about 100,000 new locations. I love the Hostess cupcakes. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for the CBN News Channel. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Tell us what you think about the stories you've seen on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us next time. Have a great day. God bless.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.